Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me once again on one of my film stock reviews, and the film stock that I will be discussing today is the Fomapan Classic 100, which is this one. And you may be used to seeing it look more like this, but this is a special edition packaging made for the 100th anniversary of Foma. You may also know the Fomapan Classic 100 under the name Arista EDU Ultra, which is the name it's sold under mainly in the US. So let me tell you my thoughts on this film stock, and I will be accompanying it with sample images that I took on this roll, as always. So while visiting family this summer, I went through some of my parents' photo albums, and it turns out my dad was quite the film photographer in his time. Judging by the amount of his photos I saw in the albums, it turns out he was pretty inseparable from his Zenit camera. He also used to develop his film at home in his bathroom, and judging by all of this, I feel like he was very passionate about this hobby, which is pretty interesting because in the past 10-20 years, I don't think I have ever seen him hold a camera. So I sat down with him and I asked him about what his favorite film stock was at the time, and unsurprisingly, he told me it was Foma films. I say unsurprisingly because at the time in the 70s and 80s, it was very difficult in the Czech Republic to get your hands on pretty much any film stock because the imports were very limited. And Foma Bohemia being a Czech company, their film stocks were widely available in the Czech Republic, and pretty much everybody was shooting Foma films. This is a picture I found that he took of my mom on the Foma 100 in the 80s. So Foma Bohemia was established in 1921, and they have been rolling films since 1933. Today they also produce industrial and medical X-ray films, processing baths, and are very trusted for their medical imaging material. So I thought that the best thing to do would be to lend my Minolta X700 to my dad, and I pretty much had to force him to take a couple of photos on it, but between me and you, I think he actually ended up enjoying it. So now let's talk a little bit about Fomapan Classic 100. It is a negative black and white panchromatic film, and it comes in 35mm medium format and also 4x5 sheets. People have often described this film as slightly rough around the edges, and they have generally agreed that this is what contributes to its old school feel. And it is pretty often praised for its very timeless look. As you may have guessed, it is a 100 ISO film, and so I shot it at box speed. I had great light, it was throughout the summer, so really I couldn't go wrong with that. So compared to other film stocks in the 100 ISO category, this one is slightly on the grainier side. If you're looking for something with very fine grain, you might want to privilege the Ilford Delta line, for example, which I have reviewed in past videos. I will link it up here. You can watch it if you want. The grain you will get with the Fomapan Classic is more reminiscent of the HP5 or Tri-X. It is a cubic grain and so a little more prominent. However, I think, and I'm not alone in this, that the grain is still very organic and very natural. That being said, despite the prominence of the grain, the film still has a really good resolution. It has this great balance between graininess and resolution, which I thought was just wonderful, and it is sharp enough that it carries an exceptional amount of detail. Due to this, it also does really well with enlargements and with prints. One of the strongest features of this film seems to be its very high contrast. The shadows are very deep and it has a great tonal range. It really handles highlights very well, and the tonality is really good up until white, which means that you don't really risk much, or it is very forgiving when it comes to overexposure. Now, where the film is not very forgiving is underexposure. The datasheet suggests that you can rate it all the way up to 400, but many users have pointed out that when underexposed, your images could come out murky and be outright ruined. So again, this is one of the film stocks where you have to be really careful and be really on point with your exposure in order to get the best possible results. But once you do, you will get this really classic, beautiful outcome, which really reminds you of the 40s and the 50s black and white photography. The film really performs best on sunny days with an abundance of light, but it is also decently versatile. If you expose it right, you should be able to shoot it indoors or on overcast days too. Another thing that is really great about this film stock is its price. So despite the fact that it is not always as forgiving, it is a very, very cheap alternative, and so could be a good option for beginners. And I have to say, I personally didn't run into any issues whatsoever, despite some people saying that the film is a little restrictive. So here are some more pictures that I took on this film in Prague and in Poland, and hopefully they will give you an idea of what to expect from this film stock. So I can say that if you're into a vintage classic film look and want to capture this nostalgia from 40 years ago, then this film is definitely one that I recommend you try out. I've read online that a lot of people that discovered this film have never gone back and really enjoy shooting it and always have it on them as they go to film. The grain is present, but not that strong, and it really contributes to this vintage feel of your photos. And along with this, you will still find it to be very sharp and resolve a lot of detail, which is just a great combination in my opinion. So I recommend all of you ask your parents what they used to shoot in the past. It's a very fun, time-traveling experience, if you will. As always, I would like to thank you all for watching this video. I really appreciate any comments, any feedback. Subscribe if you want to see more. I have a bunch of videos coming. And in the meantime, I hope you all have an amazing day. Make the most of the sun. Go out, take some beautiful pictures, and I'll see you next time.